the Israelis should not be allowed to achieve by siege what they failed to achieve under war, turning Gaza into an uninhabitable place where people cannot live and eventually leave. It's incumbent upon everybody to make sure that Gaza recovers, is rebuilt, its thousands and tens of thousands of wounded patients get the treatment that they deserve, and that its victims get the justice that they need. All of them stick in your mind. The young girl whose mother was a doctor at Shifa, and her mother was killed and her sister was killed and was being looked after by her mother's colleagues. And the way she had horrendous facial injuries, but had her braids and her hairband and her nail polish. Anas, who had full thickness facial burns and burns to his arms and legs, who then died after a couple of surgeries. Ramadan, whose father wheeled him on a wheelchair for 5 hours to follow me to Nsirat camp. Dareen.
It's okay. It's okay.
Whose foot I amputated. When you think Gaza's whole health system had 2,500 beds before the war, and it ended up with 37,000 wounded. And at the same time, the Israelis were taking out one hospital after another. And so your capacity to treat was getting less. You were using all of the consumables and getting more and more wounded. Eventually, everything was running out. Initially, it was the antiseptic solution that we replaced with washing up liquid and vinegar, and then it ended up being morphine, and so we ended up not being able to give painkillers to the patients that were having surgery, and then it became anesthetic, and we were having to do procedures without any anesthetic. It's funny, one of the things that kept going through my mind throughout the whole war is that this is Benny Morris's war. You remember Benny Morris is an Israeli historian who wrote a book saying the biggest mistake Israel made was not expelling the Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza, as the Americans had done with the Native Americans, as the Turks had done with the Greeks, and that the only survival of the Zionist project is a completion of the expulsion of Palestinians. And it was obvious that that's what was being planned, turning Gaza into such an inhospitable, uninhabitable place that Palestinians would leave, and those who were not killed would eventually leave on their own. And that's why the health system was an intrinsic military target, that in order to create this death world that becomes Gaza, which is uninhabitable, then you have to not just destroy the water and sewage, then you also have to make sure that there is no treatment for the over 35,000 wounded.